Wildling Press presents How Do I Book? Welcome to How Do I Book by Wildling Press. We like to chat about book writing, book publishing, book marketing, and of course, book reading. We're trying to help new and experienced authors develop their craft, widen their perspectives, and learn to get a little wild every once in a while. I'm Grace.
I'm Mary Peyton.
I'm Christina.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Oh, hey. Sometimes it's hard to figure out how to transition from just stating our names into organic conversation.
I would like to start with hi. Well, I'm super excited because today we're going to play a cheeky little game of Would You Rather with two of the best editors I've ever met, Christina and Mary Peyton.
Three of the best editors. What the heck?
I'm asking the questions here.
Ooh, I got real close to dropping an F-bomb. I gotta slap my face and get back in PG-13 mode.
All right, y'all. Are you excited to play this game with me?
Yes. Yeah, so you wrote these?
I did.
I've played Would You Rather, but never like editor edition. It's usually been like sexy bachelorette party edition.
Hey, this is gonna be sexy, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
Now, I got a few lowball questions and maybe a couple that'll make you think. Okay. We'll see. You can let me know at the end, I guess. Okay, we're gonna start with some warm-up Would You Rathers. So these should be pretty easy.
Okay. Just to get our calisthenics going.
Yes, exactly. Would you rather do a proofread or a copy edit?
That's hard because I feel like they are the same thing, but one is in a lot more polished condition. So I'm going to take a proofread because sometimes when a proofread is in really good shape, that's just mostly reading a book.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess it depends how, I know we can't say just depends, but it depends on how attached I am to a manuscript, because a copy edit to me is you get to be more a part of the process, and a proofread is obviously important, but it's more near the end of the process.
Yeah.
Let's say that it's just you don't know the author, you don't know the story, it's just a job. What way are you gonna go?
So in that case, if we don't really know, if we're not attached to the work, then I would prefer a proofread. Because it's faster, to be honest.
Yeah. Same.
It's like reading a book, and I think I've described before the feeling of doing a proofread. It's a book that Mary Peyton or Grace has worked so hard on, and I finally get to read it, and I'm so excited, and I'm going through it, and I'm crying. It's so beautiful. I'm at the climax. I'm like, oh yes, and then I'm like, oh, this question mark, it needs to go before the quotation mark. It's such a funny feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree with you guys. So, way to go.
Well done, team.
Would you rather work on a book rife with tense issues or rife with plot holes? Dun, dun, dun.
Tense issues. I'm going to jump in there and say that kind of quickly. Because, yes, that would be very annoying to fix because there's so many instances. But the plot holes, trying to fill in plot holes can lead to a whole lot more work in different areas of the manuscript, too, where you might have to fill in more or take out something. It ends up being a lot more work, I think.
Yeah, I don't mind the challenge of finding a plot hole, especially in a book that, like you kind of said earlier, Mary Peyton, one that I really care about, and I'm I trust the author. I'm let's figure this out. But a cold manuscript, an author I don't have a relationship with, tense issues are the kind of thing where as an editor, you can just fix them and move on with your life. A plot hole is a conversation.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, both of those things give me anxiety. So, Okay, so I guess this is kind of a good follow-up to that. Would you rather edit a book by a first-time author or by a seasoned author?
Ooh. I feel like that doesn't, in my mind, that doesn't matter at all. It just depends on how the author is to me. Like how open they are to suggestions.
To me, sometimes I feel like a first-time author is perhaps a little more open.
Totally. When you're working with a first-time author, and almost all of the authors that we work with are first-time authors, you get to set up what the editing process looks like for them. If they have been edited by someone other than you before, they might have had a different experience or even a bad experience. They might have had an experience where the editor didn't actually really use a style guide and kind of just went with their gut, and like grammar was more up for debate than it actually is. Or they might have worked with an editor who they really didn't like, and so they have this like defensiveness about them already. So I like being able to kind of show an author how it can be so gratifying to like go through this process together.
Yeah. All right. Would you rather fix stilted dialogue or repetitive sentence structure?
Oh God, this is the first one that is truly hard for me. I think that stilted dialogue is easier to explain to an author.
Okay.
I think that it is easier to correct. Like, all you have to do is like fix some contractions, get some synonyms going. Oh my God, I just got a notification that our friend Claire pre-ordered one or both of our books. That's very exciting.
Yay!
Awesome.
I know. It's very distracting. I guess I should go on Do Not Disturb. But what was I saying? That was so distracting.
You're saying contractions to fix
and like
stilted dialogue.
It's easy to tell an author, read your dialogue out loud and see if it's something that your mouth would say. Explaining to them, I feel like in the past I've found myself doing, it's very hard to explain, like you repeat the same sentence structure. Like you have to like pull examples. You have to like diagram sentences. Like you have to, and then the solution is not always clear in those instances.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Mary Peyton?
It's easier to explain the stilted dialogue. It's easier to make your author really understand what you're talking about when it comes to that. And sentence structure, like everyone talks about that, like especially authors and editors, we all technically know what that means, but to really vary your sentence structure and to make things flow is more of an art than a science, I'd say.
Yeah. Grace, did you just open every first edit you've ever worked on to make these?
Honestly, I did. Yeah, I got some inspiration from past edits for sure.
What's your preference, Grace?
I do think that my preference is also to fix the dialogue. I think that once you point out stilted dialogue to an author, they pretty much get it. Like they can kind of fix that on their own once you just give them some of those tricks that you were listing, Christina. I think that it's like they don't really maybe think about it the way that they should be. They're maybe getting too in their head about it or something.
Yeah, and I also feel like there's an angle of like certain characters do have stilted or overly formal dialogue, and that's like a choice you get to make. I'm thinking about in Cursed Coven by Cara Badalamenti, there's a grandma character who has stilted dialogue, and I'm like, she's a little pretentious. You know, it totally tracks. And all of the kids, I say kids, they're probably my age. I'm 32. In that book, talk like normal people. You know what I mean?
Hey, they're kids.
So it's like in juxtaposition, yeah, the grandma Jocasta, a little prim.
Right. A little prim, a little proper.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Would you rather work on a book that's too long or too short? I think I know Christina's answer to this.
So by too short, do you mean we're trying to market it as a novel and it's not a novel length yet and we have to add?
I think no. I think I mean like it needs more to be a good book.
I see. It needs development.
It needs development. Too long as in you gotta make cuts. Which I know you like to do, so.
I love cutting. It's much I think that it's much easier to convince an author that they need to add more than it is to convince them that they need to cut the work they've already done.
Yes.
Even though almost every book needs a lot of cutting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try cutting your first page. See if that helps. Straight up, I'm not even joking.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think it's a lot. It makes sense why it's hard for authors to cut things that they've been working on, especially when they're at the point where they're seeking professional editing help or publication, where they've probably been through a lot of edits themselves, and so they feel like it's at a good place.
And it's just like this person that you know, especially if it's a first edit, you don't have a relationship with them yet, and we're professionals at this, so sometimes it can come off a little cold, you know, like, hey, this isn't helping, gotta cut it. And it's like, but I labored over this.
Yeah, I agree.
Grace, what did you say your preference?
I guess I didn't. Yeah, I think. Wait, so did you?
I don't think I said. I don't think
you did.
Mary, did you say your preference?
We kind of just chatted about it. I feel like I didn't really pick one.
It's just so hard because so much of it depends on the author. Like, I've had authors before where I'm like, give me more here, and they like cannot conceptualize what on earth I mean by that, you know? And it's like, sometimes you cannot convey to them. Whereas cutting, you could just do it and be like, hey, we're cutting this.
Right.
Oh my God.
But sometimes they have a hard time with that.
Oh my God, this is so hard.
It's definitely more work. It's harder in that way to ask an author to add stuff because it's also more work for them, which means you're going to and it's more work for you trying to explain it, and then you're going to have to edit some more parts of the book.
Oh.
But it's harder to convince them or get them to trust you about cutting stuff too. So it's, man, I don't know which one I'd rather.
I think I'd rather cut. I think it's easier. You can ask the author to do it, and if they don't sort of do it enough, you can do it yourself. You totally have a point with you don't have to edit additional text at that point. And usually if a book is just objectively way too long, like especially independent book publishers really can't publish a book over like 120,000 words because it becomes prohibitively expensive to print them at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not selling a $27 paperback. It's not going to sell. So if a book is already way too long, we're going to talk about that before the contract gets signed. So it's also already an expectation on the table. Usually you don't realize the extent of development that a book truly needs until you are knee deep in that first edit.
That's a great point. All right, so we're cutting?
I guess I'm taking the 150K word book, I guess.
Begrudgingly.
Ouch.
Would you rather work on a book that has an underwhelming protagonist or antagonist?
Oh my gosh, Grace, these are good.
You like these questions?
They're great.
Yeah, I like them in that I hate them.
Oh, great.
I think protagonist.
Okay.
Oh, crap, this is hard. Oh, wait, I take it back. Wait, I take it back. This is so hard. Okay. I think antagonist because your characters are defined by their goals. Yeah. If you have a clear antagonist that's like a human person, then overcoming them in some way is like a goal of your protagonist, and you can go from there. If your antagonist is like a Megamind type of, I'm just evil, it's like, well, he's extremely charismatic. That's a bad example. But like, I think it's harder to fabricate like the antagonist is innately connected to the stakes of your story. I think it's harder to build that up once the story's already started. If your main character lacks a muchness, I think that's something that you can sort of punch up a little easier.
Yeah, I like that. You've convinced me.
I think I have the same reasoning, but a different answer. I think I'd rather have to work on an underwhelming antagonist because I love increasing the stakes. I love talking to authors about how like this antagonist or this situation could be a little more dangerous, like adding a bit of danger, because then your readers really get more involved in the story when they're more worried about that. Mm-hmm. So I just enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
Even if it's more
I like
work.
it. I think I would say I came up with these questions and I'm still having a hard time. You think I would have already had an answer. I would say I would like to probably punch up an underwhelming protagonist, just because I feel like a lot of times protagonists can be kind of underwhelming just because they're sort of a vessel for the story. So I feel like that's kind of a thing for protagonists anyway, and you can just make them a little jazzier.
I love that.
Yeah, I feel like when I'm reading a book with a lame protagonist, which I don't often because I usually will DNF, do not finish those, but if the concept is so good that I'm enduring a lame protagonist, as I'm reading, my brain is usually like doing work in the background, you know, on my editor like rest mode. It's like, okay, well here's how I would have done this different to make me care about this character at all.
Yes.
Aw. You're writing fan fiction in your head.
Every book I ever read, I'm like, here's how I would do this better. I just want to be clear that I'm kidding. Most books, I don't think I could do them better.
She said what she said, okay, people? Would you rather receive an edit from an author who, whoopsies, accidentally forgot to use track changes?
No!
Or Christina,
triggered.
Stay with me. Or edit a book that's entirely handwritten.
Well, I simply can't do the second one. Like, I'm just not doing it. Oh my god. I mean, okay, to be real, I just did the first one, like, today. I've been editing a book that did not have track changes, and it was fine. Like, you know, if it was a final edit, I would be more concerned. It wasn't a final edit, so, you know, you read the whole thing, you're like, okay, some stuff's not labeled here. You remind the author to turn track changes on. If it's like a proofread or like a final edit, that causes more work, and that kind of sucks. But I'm not touching anything handwritten. I'm sorry.
Okay, fair enough.
Mary Payton?
I think for this one, I would have to say that I prefer the track changes one, just because it seems a little bit closer to what I could work with. You know, like, it seems like a little bit closer to someone who at least can do stuff on the computer. Like,
that is true.
That's true, and that's a really good point, because if I'm editing something by hand, the very first thing I'm going to do is type it up onto the computer. Like, if it's handwritten, I'm not editing that. Like, what point is there in that? So I'm going to type it up, and that's a lot of extra labor. That takes like hours and hours and hours and hours, and that author just simply has to be paying me for all of that labor, for starters.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, this one I think is particularly fun. Would you rather have edited Jane Austen or Mary Shelley?
Oh, wow. I actually would be scared to tell either of them how to do anything.
True. But could you imagine reading an original manuscript from either of them?
Wow.
I can't. I wonder what they must have looked like.
I can't.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd have to say Mary Shelley, just because I talked to Christina about this. I actually haven't read Pride and Prejudice or any of the major Jane Austen.
You've only read Northanger Abbey, which is like so bad. It's her like worst book. It's about nothing. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was a little rough. So I kind of have avoided reading her stuff. So maybe actually I'd like to edit something of hers so that I could then read it.
Okay.
There you go.
I would never, ever in a million years volunteer to write or edit anything like Jane Austen, because her sentences are so long And I feel like Frankenstein is a little more accessible of language. Trust me, I would not want to edit either one because neither one of them uses language in anywhere near a way that I authentically use language. I would be doing it a disservice. They have usages that I don't know. Like they have like forms that I don't know. They spell stuff so strange sometimes. In Jane Austen, instead of SHOW, let me show you something, it's SHEW. And it's like, what am I supposed to do with that?
Let me show you something.
So I think Frankenstein, if I remember correctly, I read a Jane Austen novel like a month ago. I haven't read Frankenstein in over 10 years. If I remember correctly, I think Frankenstein is slightly more accessible. It's sure as hell shorter.
Yeah, that's
for
true.
Sure. Yes.
So are we all Mary Shelley?
I'm going to go Mary Shelley.
Okay. All right, y'all, we have time for one more question. Would you rather edit the same book forever and ever or never edit a book again?
Oh man, that is the toughest question so far. This is so hard.
It's rough. It's rough, buddy.
I think I would choose to, oh God, that's so hard. I guess never edit again because I think I would be literally insane if I had to edit the same book over and over again. That's a Sisyphean task that I'm not really trying to do.
I think I would rather edit the same book forever. I don't know. It's terrible. I hate myself for asking this question. I don't know. I just feel like it's so, like, you truly can edit something forever. So I feel like it's possible. If it were a book that I really, really loved and was really passionate about, I'm sure I could edit it forever. And I feel like that's better than never editing again. So.
I have to say that I'd rather edit a book forever. But okay. But only if I can also be editing other books at the same time, which is normally what we do.
Yes.
So
yes.
As long as it's maybe one that I'm working on in the background forever, I feel like that's less of a nightmare. And I just can't give up editing a book. I love it.
And that's how you book. This episode was recorded and edited by me, Grace Ball. Our logo was designed by Michael Hardison. Our theme music was produced by Jason Hilton at Negative Selections on Instagram. Visit us online at Wildling Press on social media or at wildlingpress.com.
I went to the bathroom and I forgot to turn off my recording and then I dropped my phone in the trash can.